So Pavan Sukhdev joins me now from the GIST Advisory Group, who you are the founder and chief executive, and you consult and evaluate the performance of government, of business and NGOs. So what is your school report from the kind of voices of these people that you have heard in the Forum for the Future of Agriculture today?
It's been an interesting time here, and I think I've heard many voices coming from industry, coming from NGOs, coming from government offices, and indeed coming from the community at large. And I think the good message I take away from here is that there is a recognition for change. There is a recognition that we are somehow stuck in a business model which doesn't work, and we need solutions away from here.
The kind of messages that you were giving the Forum today then, being able to talk about resource efficiency being good for business as usual really not being acceptable anymore. You feel this didn't fall on deaf ears, not even amongst the EU policymakers?
No, I think the European Commission has actually hit the nail on the head in the way that it frames the idea of using public wealth for public goods. And I think this is what's been missing, the understanding that wealth is not just private wealth, it's also public wealth. There are things that we own in communities and as society at large. Clean air, fresh water, the fact that there is rainfall, the fact that the weather is more or less still predictable. These are things we own and we have to look after them.
The EU have been talking about public goods, of course, for a long time, but it has not been widely understood by those at large in society and not particularly listened to by business, one might have said in the past, but that is changing. Right?
That's beginning to change, because I think businesses are also seeing that if we lose the ecological infrastructure on which they survive, after all, how can a farming business, an agricultural business, do without a reliable supply of rainwater, a reliable productivity in the soil? And these are the things that are actually being lost as a result of our current business model, the externalities of our business model.
You talked about the circular economy then as a new business model. I know Jeremy Rifkind has also talked about the Internet of Things. So some of these ideas have been shared at the Forum today, but also the negative impacts of agriculture and the way in which we need to recycle, reuse and change have been the themes. Were you hopeful in terms of the sentiment of what you came away with from the Forum today?
I was quite encouraged to see the willingness to listen. I mean, it's not lost to me that Syngenta is a large industrial firm looking at industrializing agriculture and a huge investment in science and technology and so on. And at the same time, I was encouraged to find panelists who represent organic farming, people from Africa whom I met yesterday, to see that it's a healthy mix of views and information that is circulating now. And it's a sort of churning that's taking place. But the churning at some point must produce a new model, and we don't have too much time. So my message is, the churning is great, but let's get the product out of the churn quickly.
And did you hear real action examples of that happening? So for example, we talk about precision farming, you talk about some of the initiatives that industry is involved in, and these are making tangible steps.
I think there are some tangible steps, but what I still felt missing was the willingness of people to look at smallholder farming, which is actually half of agriculture. And if you look in terms of jobs, it's almost all of agriculture. It's like 1 billion jobs. I didn't see enough willingness to think about that as a business opportunity. And seriously, those people need a business focus and help to move forward, not by destroying the small farm and making it part of a massive farm, not by losing 1 billion jobs and then having unemployed hundreds of millions moving from farms to cities. No. But by actually creating systems, healthy systems, ecologically sound systems, sometimes organic systems, on farms, and doing it in a way that companies know best how to do. I didn't see that happening, and that's missing. Yeah.
Did you hear or see anything in terms of the UN and the Sustainable Development Goals? You know, I know they're big, I know they're global, but they try and have, building from the Millennium Development Goals, a local focus. They talk about smallholders, they talk about women, they talk about not just looking at the poor companies financed by the wealthier companies. Sure. So, you know, there is a sophistication there.
There is indeed, and there's no denying complexity. I think I began my session today by showing a picture of what some people think agriculture is and what actually it is in terms of a chart. And I think the UN also understands that. I think the United Nations recognize that development in all its dimensions, improving well-being and capacity in poor people, is a complex issue. And I think agriculture is heart and center because it's the biggest employer of those who are not developed, don't have the benefits of development.
There's no doubt that we're not going to eliminate poverty while we degrade the environment, and I think that's been a clear message.
I think my clearest message to this audience is that please focus on the smallholder farmer. You are not going to be able to turn the smallholder farm into something else. All you can do is turn it into a better smallholder farm. That's the only way you will keep jobs. You see, having jobs is not just about it's not just an input into production. A job is something which gives you self-respect. You cannot deny people jobs. That just doesn't work. We are human beings. And I think that message has to go through.
Thank you very much. I'm sure the forum listened. Many thanks.
Okay.